Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video for today, we're going to be discussing about encryption and tokenization. And this is something that most software engineers and software developers tend to mix up. Now, what exactly is encryption? What exactly is tokenization? The first thing you need to know is the both of them tries to hide sensitive data. You just having to hide your data from the way it's supposed to be to something more confusing and all of that. But encryption on one end is basically you using the algorithm process to convert data to something not meaningful. For example, you could have profile information and you try to encrypt them, into string using different kind of algorithm process. We have the SHA-512 and the rest of them like that. Now, tokenization on the other hand is basically you hiding profile information, credit card details, health information, those types of information, you're converting them into tokens. And you can only verify those informations using a secret key, which was used when converting those information. And likewise, same thing with encryption also. There's what they call the secret key, which you actually need to use to decrypt those informations back to readable format. That's all the intro aspect of what we're going to be doing today. Now, on the other hand, I'm going to be showing you practically how to implement both of them in a Node.js application. And this will give you a better insight of when to use tokenization and when to use encryption. Now, we've been able to explain all of these, and we're going to be going straight into the video. So now, based on the practical approach, I'm going to be showing you how to implement an encryption and also how to implement a tokenization in a Node.js application. This application is going to be a very simple and short one, whereby we don't have to start up an Express server and all of those stuffs. All we just need to do is just install the required package and just create a single file to have all of this done. Now I'm going to be creating a file here called the index.js file. And inside of this file is where we're going to have all the examples we're going to be doing. But before that, I just have to initialize the repository or the folder using the npm init so as for us to generate the package.json file because we're going to be installing some packages. And for this particular video and the sake of what we're trying to achieve, I'm going to be working with two packages. The first one is the JWT package, which is the JSON Web Token, and the second one is the Crypto.js package. Now, the JWT package, just also known as the JSON Web Token, is what we are going to be using for our for our tokenization process. And the other one, which is the Crypto.js package, is what we are going to be using for our encryption process. So, having explained that, I'll go ahead and install the two of them. So, the first one is the Crypto.js, and the second one is the JSON Web Token. Now, for you to install these packages or for you to know more about these packages, all you just need to do is just go to the npm registry and search for the package, and you're going to see lots of examples, lots of detailed explanation about each of these packages and how to use them. But like I said, the main reason for this video is to give you a practical example of how to use this package and what it does. Now, the first thing we're going to be doing is encryption. That's the first thing we're going to be doing. And for us to do that, we would have to bring in the package called crypto, and we require, so when we bring in crypto, we require crypto.js. That's the package we just installed. And let's just create a secret key. On a very good day, on a professional standard, your secret key has to be stored inside an env file, like you creating a .env file and storing it there. But for the sake of this test and this tutorial, I'm just going to have my secret key as my secret key. So now I'm going to create a function that says encrypt data, and this function is where we're going to have our encryption. And the next thing would basically be to call that function. So we're going to have encrypt data. Then let me just console the log results. Now, what data are we trying to encrypt? I'm just going to create a very simple data here and it's just going to be profile data, an object that carries the name and also carries your email. Now, this is just the simple data we're going to be encrypting. But in the normal day, you're going to have more complex data or more sensitive data to encrypt. But for the case of this particular tutorial and video, I'm just going to be encrypting this data. Now, this is the data we're going to be encrypting here. And inside of here, the first thing would basically be just create a new variable and call the crypto. Inside of crypto, we have what we call the AES algorithm. That's the process. And inside of this, we can be able to call the encrypt method. Now, the AES algorithm is one kind of algorithm that you can use to encrypt data in your application. And that's the reason why we had to do that from crypto, which is basically the requiring of the crypto.js package. And we're calling the AES method and the encrypt method inside of this. Now, the first argument that goes into the AES encryption is basically the data which you're trying to encrypt. But you can't just pass the data like that. So you would have to stringify the data, and that's the first thing that goes in. Now, after that, the next thing that goes in is the secret key that this data would be used when decrypting. So, for example, when this data is encrypted, and you need to decrypt this data, you need to supply that same secret key before you can get that data decrypted. So in our own case, we're going to be passing secrets here. So now, when we do this, I'm just going to say to string so that we can get the results in string. And I'm going to return encrypted data. So now if we save this and try to run this application, Node.index.js, you find out that we now have these characters coming together as the results from our encryption. Now, whatever you see here in the terminal is what signifies profile data. And the only way you can get back profile data is when you decrypt this particular information. And in the process of decrypting the information or this particular string or these characters, you would have to supply that same secret key that was used when encrypting the data. And I'm going to be showing you that in this same video. So now we're going to create a new function that says decrypt data. And this function, we're just going to pass the encrypted version into this particular function to get back the results. And this is something quite straightforward. All we need to do is just, we'll call decrypt data. And I'm going to still call crypto.aes.decrypt. Now, you can see the first thing we need to pass is the ciphertext, which is basically this thing that we have here, which we are trying to decrypt. So I'm going to copy this and paste it here as a string. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pass the secret key. Now, I'm going to convert this still to string, but inside of the string, I'm going to be calling crypto.js, so which is basically crypto.enc.utf8, so as to get back the data in text. So now, if we call this, I'm going to return decrypted data. So this is supposed to be decrypted. Okay. So now, we're going to copy this and call the function directly here. So let me have results, and I'll call decrypt data. So for now, I'm going to comment out the first one we had and try to run this application again. So now we have node index.js. And now you can see that we now have that same data which was encrypted before. And you would notice that this is basically just you having your data from the plain text format or the plain and readable format to something that is not really meaningful, because anyone who sees this thing really doesn't know what is behind this thing, like what kind of data is behind it. And in cases like this helps you to encrypt data that are being sent across via HTTP requests. So, for example, if you are sending information from the client down to the server, you might decide to encrypt your information on the client side and send that encrypted information to the server. So it passes through the HTTP request and it's been encrypted instead of you having to send this plain information via your HTTP request. And it's not just applicable to only HTTP requests. There are other things that requires encryption, like I explained earlier. You might decide to not submit plain informations to your database that has to do with you as a user. You can decide to encrypt those informations. But that's not the only thing we're looking at. We're going to be looking at the other side of things, which is the tokenization. And tokenization is something more unique because it's used to store information like credit card, health information, and stuff like that. Things that are very vital are what you use the tokenization to do. And in Node.js, when you are authenticating a user or when you're authorizing a user after the sign-in process or the login process, there's also a process where you need to generate a token, which that user would be using to make further requests to other protected routes. Now, that's another example of tokenization. Now, for us to see the practical side of tokenization, we're going to require the JWT, which is the JSON Web Token. Now we've required a JSON Web Token. Then the next thing we're going to be doing here, we're going to be using the same secret key and the same profile data, but I'm going to be creating a separate function that says sign data. So this function, inside of this function, what we want to do here is just call signed data, and we'll call jwt.sign, and we pass the data we're trying to sign, which is the profile data. So I'm just going to spread this data using the spread operator. And the next thing that is here is going to be the secret key, and you can be able to return signed data. And if we call signed data here, we're going to have const results equals signed data. And I'm just going to comment this one out. And we're going to run this particular code again. So we have node index.js. And now you can see we have these long characters that is seen as our token. Now, these characters or this string you have here is what makes up this particular data called profile data. So if you have to verify that information, you would have to do that by verifying this token. That's the token you have to verify before you can get back this result. Now, I'm going to also create a new function that is going to verify the data. And inside of this function, we're going to have verified data, and we'll call JWT and call the verify method inside of it. Now, the first thing we want to pass to this thing, we're going to pass the secret key as the second thing. The first thing we have to pass here is that token which we are trying to verify. So I'm going to copy this token, put it inside of here, and I'm just going to return this verified data. And now I'm going to call verify data here. So now I'm going to have these as, and you can see we have name, we have email, and we have the duration that this data is going to stay for, going to live for. Now, we've been able to explain to you how to encrypt data, decrypt data, sign in data using the JWT. That's the token to make your data, convert them to tokens, and also to verify your tokens. Now, the question here is, the both of them looks like they're actually doing the same thing, because if you check here, you find out that you have this data encrypted and it's giving you some random characters and weird characters coming together. And same thing is also going on here. Now, the question here is, what do I need tokenization for? And where do I need, or what do I need encryption for? And this still stands. For vital informations like credit card and stuff like that, in most cases, you might not need to store the credit card information yourself. You might have a payment provider that does that. But what if you are that payment provider? You can use encryption to get your data because anybody who gets hold of your encryption key can easily decrypt your data. Do you understand? So you should be tokenizing those kind of data or converting those kind of data to tokens. Now, encryption basically are one major part where you have to play with encryption or you have to use encryption or utilize it is when you're dealing with HTTP requests. When you're dealing with HTTP requests, you would have to encrypt those data before you can send them alongside your HTTP request. And this is something that if you are developing APIs or you are developing client side applications or full stack applications, you have to take note of. So this is one major use case. There are several things that encryption and tokenization can do. But the aim of this video is just to give you an insight as to how to make use of the two of them and also give you an understanding of what the two of them actually do or does and how to make use of them. Now, if you have any other thing you feel is missing in this video, put that in the comment section below, and I'm definitely going to be in the comment section looking for the comments. So I'm going to attend to them one after the other. If you like this video, kindly give it a like, subscribe to the channel, share this video to other engineers and developers you see out there to also get the same knowledge and understanding which you've gotten. And that wraps up the video. I'm going to see you in the next video.